Hello, everybody. Trying to get my chair comfortable. Welcome to Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. It is July 24th, 2025. A couple of quick things. um, it's not well known that there are certain people that the radical right, the hardcore Trump supporters, who would support him nuking ourselves, they there are people they don't like. People like Robert De Niro and Rosie O'Donnell and Whoopi Goldberg, Jimmy Kimmel, Seth Meyer. I think you get the idea. Oh, Alex Baldwin. Another one. Okay, I understand why they don't like him, because they make fun of Trump. They're trying to keep us from all committing suicide if we're not Trumpers. Trying to get us to laugh at ourselves and at our terrible situation. But a person died today who was very much involved with Donald Trump on the campaign trail, and is an entertainment icon, and that was Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan died either last night or today from cardiac arrest. He was 71, considering what he did in his life. When you think about it, he was probably pretty lucky to get to 71. But I can't really say anything good about him except he was entertaining when he entertained people. I guess I would say the same thing about Sylvester Stallone. I used to like Sylvester Stallone. I admired Sylvester Stallone. I could never do that now. And I'm sure one day, when Sylvester Stallone passes away, I'd say, well, he wound up, just like Hulk Hogan, leading us into a situation which threatens our form of government, the way that we treat people within our country, our freedoms, our rights, our economy, which, as long as Trump comes out on top, I don't think he cares about anybody else. I'm sure he doesn't. And I would say he did a lot of damage. Hulk Hogan did damage rallying for Trump. And my namesake, Dr. Phil, did a lot of damage. That's another person that I will not miss at all. God, and he should really have known better. Okay? He wasn't in boxing rings or wrestling matches or anything. Nothing happened to his fat walrus head. So, I don't feel guilty about saying that Hulk Hogan's death does not affect me, because I know that the people on the other side of the spectrum would feel the same about Whoopi Goldberg and all the other names that I mentioned before. Okay? They say, good, I didn't like her. Well, I'm not going to go that far with Hulk Hogan. I'm not going to give you the satisfaction. But I don't think it's a loss to the world. I see everybody else today that I've seen on different channels and things going, oh my God, Hulk Hogan's gone, and I'm thinking like, wow. So anyway, that was the first thing I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about is Donald Trump. I don't understand. I mean, last week, he blamed Biden for appointing Jerome Powell as Fed chairman. It was the dumbest thing Biden ever did. Leaving him there was another dumb thing Biden did. Jerome Powell is stupid. He's an idiot. Blah, blah, blah. Donald Trump appointed him. Not Joe Biden. Back in 2017. And when you combine that with other things, such as Trump saying, I want drug prices to go down, not just 50 or 60%, but 200%, 600%, 1,500%. especially when he's talking about putting a tariff on drugs coming into the United States of 200% that has to be paid for by the consumer. One starts to wonder, no, we're way past wondering. The only thing we wonder about is why J.D. Vance isn't using the cabinet to 25th Amendment him before he hurts us even more. Okay? And be the president for the next 3 years. As a matter of fact, I think if J.D. Vance did that now, I think he might be allowed to run for president 2 more times. If he won in 2028. So he'd be president for like 11 years. Anyway, the man's not capable. He's not all there. He's mean-spirited. And he's suffering from dementia. He should be removed before he hurts even more people. Tourism is down incredibly. We're feeling it here in Florida. Las Vegas supposedly is a ghost town. Maine's even doing badly from what I've seen on the TV. Nobody wants to come here. 1, because they don't want to be detained by ICE, which they could. And 2, they don't like us. Why should they like us? We're acting like the biggest bully assholes ever on the planet. Why would anybody want to come here? Why would a Jewish person want to go to Iran? Why would a German person want to go to Russia? So no one's coming here. And those numbers are going to come through in the economy, and it has nothing to do with Jerome Powell. Because while tourism is down, guess what? So is the U.S. dollar. 11% since Trump took office. Do you know what that means? That means that anybody who comes from this country, on average, their currency is worth 11% more here than it would have been last fall. America is on sale. So is our real estate. And everybody says, oh, we don't want people from other countries buying our real estate. Well, you're making it 10% cheaper right now. And in conversely, everything out of the country is 10 or 11% more because of this president. And the last thing I want to talk about today is the trade deals. Some of these trade deals seem too good to be true. They probably are. You know, I think if Trump put in 15% on most of the goods coming into the country, I think America would survive it. Yeah. We would have to pay a lot more, especially with the 11% dollar loss we've had. But it's not like 35%, 50%, which would be a world standstill stop. I don't think we're going to get to that point. But he just made a deal with Japan, and it seems like there's no deal. Because even on Trump's original page, he just crossed out numbers he didn't like and put in new numbers. I really doubt Japan even knows that. I've heard already that Japan's ministers are saying, we're not aware of what Trump is claiming credit for. Trump's saying, oh, we're going to start to sell the food, you know, even though it doesn't meet their standards and it's dangerous for their people. And these other countries are saying, we don't want that. We didn't agree to that. There are things that Trump says, now, they've agreed to that we haven't. So we have to get this all down on paper. Don't just listen to Trump. Some of these trade deals might never come about the way they seem. He is just trying very hard to get something on the table so people don't talk about Jeffrey Epstein. It's the truth. But there is no trade deal with Japan. I believe it would have to be passed by Congress. But I want to say something specific, and Japan's too. And if Japan feels that Trump's lying about it and that it's not what they see on paper, they're just not going to sign it. They might be waiting him out, waiting for J.D. Vance to 25th Amendment the guy. Japan knows that our cars don't meet their safety standards. Japan knows that our food doesn't meet their standards. Why would they import on purpose foods that don't meet their standards, governmental standards, and could threaten the lives of some of their citizens or the health of some of their citizens? Just because Trump wants to. And by the way, I'm sorry, is food so inexpensive here that we have to make sure that we're shipping it out to other countries? That makes absolutely no sense to me. The food is expensive now to the point where people are actually not eating what they want to eat. They're eating other things that are cheap. They're not picking out what they want to eat. They are eating other stuff and substituting because they can't afford it. Well, maybe if we kept some of the food here, the price would come down to where we could afford it. But no, we're going to ship it to Japan and everywhere else. Now, how does that help Americans with their prices? How does the dollar being devalued help Americans with their prices? How does the tariff that Americans pay help them with their prices? And this whole bit about Japan lending money, very vaguely they talk about this. As a matter of fact, they lose Besant and that horrible Lutnick guy. Ugh. One person said Howard Lutnick is like Igor was to Frankenstein. Sir, whatever. Yes, sir. Sir, sure. I will do it. They make no sense when they talk about it, and they're supposed to be scholared, economic people. Besant actually just brain farted when I was watching him. I don't think, it's just like, because it's not true, he can't get it into his head to lie about it. Where's this money going to go? Japan's supposed to lend $400 billion to the U.S. or to the U.S. companies, or they're supposed to have a floating loan on things that go to U.S. companies so they can build infrastructure here, but the money's going to go to a slush fund that Trump controls without anything to do with Congress. Wouldn't that be the kicker, huh? That Donald Trump takes all this slush fund money and just triples, quadruples ICE from the multiplication that he's already done with, or builds his own private army. He uses the money to maybe shoot us. Who knows what he would do? There's no, first of all, he can't do anything illegally because the Supreme Court already said that. So there's no restriction on what he would do with the money. It would be in what they call the Sovereign Wealth Fund, or what we could call the Trump Slush Fund. Can you imagine if all of this tax money that's coming in, they're saying, oh yeah, we're getting so much from the tariffs, yeah, and it doesn't go towards our debt, towards our budget, that it goes into Trump's slush fund to put on top of all the money they already have for the military and for ICE. A slush fund. Have you gotten your Doge check yet? Have you gotten your entire Social Security income off your taxes? You're not going to get either of those things. They promise and they promise. This time, it doesn't even hurt them to promise. Why? Because everything's so vague. They can do whatever they want. Is somebody going to be keeping track of this? This is Phil. This has been Coping with Donald. Have a good night.